Afternoon. It's time for the September, it's hard to believe it's September, 2018 edition of Heritage and History with Maureen Taylor and
Amy Johnson Crow.
And if you've listened to us before, then you know we basically talk about websites and books that we're reading, and we talk about things in the news. And we have lots of things to talk about today, although we always say, oh, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And then we start talking and we have a lot to talk about.
Growing.
Maybe we should start with the news. Oops, we have a comment already. Somebody's saying hi to us.
Well,
Howdy,
hey.
John Crow. You mentioned that we should talk about that horrible fire in Brazil.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you haven't seen the news, the National Museum of Brazil literally burned to the ground. I mean, and to give you an idea of the loss, this would be kind of like the Smithsonian burning to the ground. I mean, this was their national museum, and it wasn't just the history of Brazil. I mean, it was the loss to the scientific community because of all of the different the fossils and the plant collections, and it's just such an incredible loss. It's everything.
Yeah, you can't just say, oh, it's just paintings, or it's just furniture. It's natural history. It's the history of the indigenous people of Brazil. It
was their linguistics lab. I saw that just yesterday, that they had this collection of audio recordings, and I hope to goodness that they're backed up somewhere, but they had audio recordings of indigenous peoples and their native languages.
That are all dead now.
Yeah. I mean,
now, there was no sprinkler system.
There was no sprinkler system. The scientific and the historic and the archival community had been telling the Brazilian government since at least 2004 that, hey, this building is falling apart. There is no fire suppression. The infrastructure, it's falling apart. And this is what happens when you have a building that's falling apart and has no fire suppression. When there's a fire, you lose everything.
I read somewhere that travel photos may be important to helping them see what exactly, some of the collections they lost, because obviously not everything was digitized. And I don't know where you would send them if you had pictures of the collections.
Yeah, I've seen that too, Maureen, and I don't know. Hopefully that there are a lot of photos out there, because with the Olympics having been in Brazil just a couple of years ago, hopefully some tourists and some Olympic attendees decided, hey, I'm going to skip the next swim meet and I'm going to go to the museum. So hopefully they can at least get pictures of some of these things.
Well, it would be cool because they could create a virtual museum.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't see the actual things anymore. And I did see one picture that looked horrible. When you went into the room, on the right-hand side of one of the doorways was a frame with nothing
in it.
I heard they were able to rescue a few things, but obviously not that much.
Yeah. And I think that this should serve as yet another reminder that we need to take care of our own materials.
Right. So there's a tropical storm that just hit the southeastern United States. Mm-hmm. There's another hurricane that's coming up the coast in May. Looks like it's headed for North Carolina. What do? You need to have a plan. And I always tell people you have to scan everything that you have or photograph everything that you have. And then I have multiple backups. I don't know about you. I have a hard drive. I have iCloud. I have a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, Maureen, that it isn't just having a backup.
You have to have multiple backups.
You really do. You need to have multiple backups. And I would suggest at least two, one nearby.
Yep.
And one someplace else, whether that someplace else is in the cloud.
I have my little my little pink hard drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one offsite.
Yeah, and one offsite somewhere, because, and I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't want to use the cloud because what if that company goes out of business? And my response to that is, what happens when your hard drive fails? Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's just a machine.
Well, everything fails sooner or later.
Everything fails. And, so I hear too many people saying, oh, well, I have everything backed up, on a hard drive, and that's great. But what happens when the hard drive is sitting there next to your computer and, heaven forbid, your house burns down, or you have a hurricane, or you have a tornado, or somebody breaks into your house and they take your laptop and, there's a hard drive right here. I can get, $10 from that. I'm going to take it too. You have to have at least one copy someplace else.
Right. So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine had their house broken into and they stole their computer, and on it was the book he was writing.
Oh, please tell me he had a copy someplace else?
Something, but not a lot of it.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, this is wrong.
Okay.
You need a backup.
Yeah, when I'm writing a book, it's multiple places.
When I'm writing a book, yeah, I have backups upon backups upon backups.
Yeah, now, I'm kind of paranoid, but at some point, you might call it paranoid. I call it being prepared.
You have to be prepared.
You do.
One of our people, Kate Keller, said that she heard that money had been allocated for a fire suppression system, but the government had not gotten around to doing anything about it.
Yeah. And I think that brings up another important point, that we as researchers, we have to start being more involved in state and local decision making. So when you see, like, for example, okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. So for example, and I'm going to call them out, the Indiana State Archives.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm calling them out because they are still in a temporary building, They were only supposed to be in that building for like 2 years. That was, I think, 17 years ago. The Indiana State Archives is in literally a warehouse, a flat roof, non-climate controlled warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the state legislature of Indiana just keeps kicking the can down the road of, hey, we need a new archive, but yet they never fund it.
Well, Indiana's not alone. I mean, the Rhode Island State Archive is in downtown Providence, in a little office building, and that's fine. They actually moved, and all the archives were in the basement. Now,
what could possibly go wrong there?
Well, the problem is downtown Providence. If we have a major hurricane like 54 and 38, for instance, it flooded with feet of water.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have a hurricane barrier, which supposedly works pretty well, but we haven't had a Category 5 hurricane come up here, or a Category 4. But they finally moved the stuff out of the basement. I'm not sure where it is right now, but this is a big issue.
Yeah.
Big issue.
And it's not just state governments. We need to be taking a look at what are our local and county governments doing to preserve their records, because I'm sorry, but keeping your records in a basement, words escape me.
Right. But here in New England, we have private historical societies that depend on charitable donations and grants to survive and take care of their materials. There's not even the state and local government. And there's a lot of little historical societies who are just struggling to care for their collections. So, like, I'm a big advocate of telling people, like, I'm trying to return a lot of, and I know Kate Keller will agree with this, return some photographs that are identified to either family members or put them in archives. And before I turn them over, I want to know that the archive is solvent. That they have a temperature and humidity controlled place to take care of these things. There was a case, a long time ago now, maybe 20 years ago, where a museum here in New England went out of business, and the there was no plan, and the staff members divided up the collections.
Oh, as in they took them home?
Took them home.
Oh, well, I suppose that at least they didn't throw them in a landfill, but
they didn't throw them in a landfill. I don't know what happened to them.
There is that, but then what happened to them?
I don't know. I do not know the other part of it. Yvonne is saying that a few years ago, her hard drive crashed on Christmas morning. Oh, perfect timing.
Oh.
She had a ton of photos that she wanted, so she paid $1,400 Canadian. Here, I can put this up on the screen, actually, to get the data from the hard drive.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah.
A lot of money. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Like Yvonne said, expensive lesson, but yeah, everybody learned from Yvonne's expensive lesson.
So John says that he often backs up to CDs because of the possibility of HD failures, and he thinks CDs have a better shelf life. Now, I will say that in Europe, in England, when I used to go to Who Do You Think You Are, there's a really good company called Time Care, and they have tested, and they have special archival CDs. But if you just go to Staples and you buy those CDs or DVDs, they are not better than a hard drive.
No.
They experience dropout loss.
Well, yeah, and also the problem with CDs is that when a hard drive fails, you usually can get at least some of the data back. Like Yvonne, spent $1,400 to get her hard drive back.
Right.
But with a CD, one good scratch, you're done.
Yeah, one good scratch, you're done.
You've lost everything on that CD.
Some people use the wrong pen, and it eats into the disc. I will say that the last time I bought a hard drive, it says right on the box, basically good for 2 years.
Wow.
I have some that are 10 years old.
Yeah. And that's something to consider too, when you're using media like this external hard drive that I have here. I carry this back and forth to an archive where I'm doing some scanning. And yeah, it's external and it's meant to be portable, but tossing it in and out of my laptop bag, I can't imagine that that's going to really prolong the shelf life of this hard drive. In fact, I'm going to put it down right there so I don't drop it.
Carol,
there it goes.
Yeah, Carol said it needs to be the gold CDs. And yes, the gold CDs are supposed to be better.
Yeah, supposed to be. But again, one good scratch and you've lost the whole thing. You can't retrieve part of a CD.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
We'll let you think about all of that we just talking about. While we talk about some other things.
Yes. Because I can write that soapbox all day.
Right. So Amy hasn't been reading.
I haven't been. I've been slacking.
I've been reading and reading and reading. I have like 4 books going at once.
You've been reading my share. August, I don't know what happened. Well, actually, I do know what happened to August. I spoke at a local society. I spoke at an all-day seminar out in Missouri. And then I had the FGS conference, which took up an entire week of August. So yeah, I have not been reading. Sad to say.
Well, I haven't been reading this as much as I bought this as a reference book for my library, which is, I have to get the camera right. It's called American House Styles, and it's a concise guide. And one of my favorite kind of houses is in here, because obviously when I'm looking at photographs, I'm looking at all kinds of things in the photographs. It's not just the people. And this is one of my favorite types of houses, the American Gothic look with the bric-a-brac on the thing. And it's available on Amazon for a lot cheaper than I bought it, but I wanted to help the Vermont bookshop stay in business. I bought it.
Help the local economy.
And what I like about it, it's not the only book I have on housing styles, but I think it's really nice because it has color, like sort of colored penciled drawings that have been reproduced, and it breaks it down by palatial estates, and what's the ones I like are the sort of the picturesque, the emerging nation.
The palatial estate would not be any of my family photos.
No, the picturesque Italian. And it becomes important to me because I'm working on some local history projects with pictures, and I'm helping the local preservation society, and I need to know more about building history.
Yeah.
You know, the architectural styles. One of the women that works at the Preservation Society, I said, okay, let's do an Art Deco tour of downtown.
Oh, yes.
And so we went, it was hot that day, so we only spent a little bit of time, but we walked around the downtown area of the city, and I brought a camera. I'm a horrible photographer. Took architecture and took pictures of a lot of sort of little pieces of the building. So I'm doing this thing on social media for them called Where Am I?
Ooh, fun.
And so they have to identify the buildings
Fun.
based on it.
I like
Yep.
that.
And I'm going to post the details. Deborah wants to know if I'm going to post the details of that book. Yes, actually, I should be able to see if it opens. Nope. Get me a blank screen from Amazon. Thank you so much. And we have Liv from Oslo.
Hey, Liv from
us.
Oslo.
I know. I love her. So that's my book for the month. In addition, I've been reading more volumes by that author that I have recently fallen in love with, Paul Collins. He writes sort of true crime, historical true crime. So it's based on history. And in the one I just finished, which is about a murder case having to do with Hamilton and Burr, they were the defendant's lawyers. And in the end, he uses modern research to solve the murder.
Ooh, fun.
So that's very cool. He says, well, they didn't know who the murderer was then, but now we have access to all these databases and all this stuff. And it's really cool. So Kate says that, yep, her town does a home tour every year featuring some of the cool houses. I know, I love them. I go on all of them. If somebody says, oh, would you like to go on a tour of such and such a building, even if it's a falling down mill? I'm like, when?
Yeah, sign me up.
Sign me up. I'm going. They did one last summer. Oh, what was it called? Open Doors. And I got to climb into the dome of one of the churches.
Oh, fun.
It was very cool. It was a lot of stairs. And all these buildings were open that you never get to go in. So it was very cool. Lots of fun.
Neat.
Which actually segues into Amy had a website, but
Amy had a website, but the website is not working right now. It was a website from Randy Majors. And you know how when you go on to Google Maps, it doesn't show the county outlines?
Right.
And sometimes you need that. I mean, we're genealogists. We need county boundaries. So Randy Majors came up with a layer onto Google Maps that will show, he's got one for present day county boundaries and another one for historical boundaries. But I think that everybody is hitting his site right now. And so it's not working. So I can't demonstrate it for you.
Can you put the URL in the comments?
I will see if I can find that. I will do that. Hang on.
Oh, and all of you that are watching, please go on the comment section and read John Crow's comments about hard drives. And he's got all these links that I can't share in my window because they're too long. Oh, oops. I did have one other bit of news to share with everyone, and I think it's okay for me to share it. Roots Tech is doing something a little bit different this year. I don't know how many of you are planning to go to Roots Tech, but it's one of my favorite conferences.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, 40,000 people that go. If you're not a people person, stay home.
Yeah.
Because it's a crush. But I always feel like I've been exposed to all the germs in the universe by the time I come home, so I'm good for the rest of the winter. But they're going to do these things called power hours. And I have been asked to do one, which is basically, or coordinate one. So they're early in the morning, which we'll see who gets up for those. But they're 15-minute segments. So there's 3 different speakers in the power hour that I'm coordinating on photographs. We're going to have somebody there to talk about quick scanning, quick metadata, and of course I'll be there talking about photo identification.
Fun. Well, since we're talking Roots Tech and talking power hours, I too am coordinating a power hour.
You didn't tell me that.
I know, I've been holding out on you.
What's yours?
Mine is what did we end up calling it? Basically, telling your own story.
Oh, cool.
Getting yourself into your family history.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's details to be announced later, but I'm really excited about that.
They're at what, 8 o'clock in the morning?
I don't know. I missed that little detail, but you know what?
At 8 o'clock in the morning.
But you know what? We're Eastern, so we'll be up.
Of course. Yeah. We're always up. That's the thing about going to the West Coast.
Yeah,
it's staying up. That's the problem.
Yeah, I much better schedule my things at Roots Tech early in the morning, because if it's something late at night, not happening.
Oh, and Linda Vogel's like, yep, because we document everyone but ourselves.
Exactly. You understand.
We forget ourselves. And Deborah, yes, here we go. Deborah, I think I might have to take the sacrifice and go to London next October for.
I might have to do that too. It's a sacrifice, but somebody has to do it.
I know. I wish I could go for the genealogy event that's happening this year.
Yeah, there is so much going on event-wise in the UK just all of a sudden.
Yeah, the UK.
Although I do know that the Roots Tech London, they said they've been planning that for quite some time, and I can imagine.
I would imagine. And then, of course, My Heritage has the one in Norway.
Yeah, in Oslo.
I know. I was really thinking of going, but now I signed up for a class, and I'd have to miss it. Well, I don't know. I think about it a lot. I'm like, I could go to Norway.
You could go to Norway for the weekend.
Stay in another class that I could just take in the spring. But anyway, so the website that I have, Amy can't show us hers right now. I
did leave the link in the comments, though.
Yeah, she didn't put the link. It's called Archive Grid. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but it's very cool in that archives all over the country, and actually I think all over the world, because I did find a couple of international ones, participate in this archive grid. It's like WorldCat for archives, like archival collections. Yeah. So I typed in, because, of course you're going to find something, Smith family. Right? You got to, when I do image searching live for people, I often pick George Washington. Why? Because I know I'm going to find something.
Right.
You could search everybody in the audience and never come up with a match right off the bat. So when I searched for Smith family, this is why I know that it's worldwide. It's the Smith family of Australia. Ooh, right. The Smith family of Port Washington in the public library, and then a very large collection of Smith family papers from 1791 to 1834 at the Massachusetts Historical Society, the volumes of Captain William Smith of Boston. It's a logbook of his ship. Ooh. The collection of the Smith family in Utah, Jedediah Smith, 1954. Historical Society of Pennsylvania, goes on and on. Real estate papers. I mean, there's a lot for the Smith family. Oh yeah, look at this. 28,348 hits. That's why we pick. But they also give you an option at the bottom, fewer matches, exact matches, or more matches. So there's ways to do it. And of course, it's library based. So they're very helpful tips on how to search. Yeah. And, I don't know about you, but oftentimes I'm looking for things, documents related to some of the people I'm researching, you think they're going to be in the local area, but it's like photographs, it's like, okay, I've got this photograph and it ended up out in, some other place that you don't even know why the family is there. And those manuscripts get put out there as well. Yeah. Here we go. Deborah's giving us information. We got to backtrack a little bit. Deborah's giving us information on the genealogy show in Birmingham in June, next June.
Ooh.
Oh, Family Tree Live in London. And Family Tree, the British Family Tree magazine.
Yeah.
In London in April, the genealogy show in Birmingham in June, which would be awesome. Deborah, I'm always looking for excuses. Always. There's another one Liv is telling us about, the Birmingham show on the 7th and 8th of June. Oh, it's heartbreaking to have to go to London.
Yeah, such a shame.
Such a shame. And Kate Keller laughs and says her maiden name is Smith.
Hey, my maiden name is Johnson. So yeah, that's typically the family that I look for when I'm trying to find just a general example. Although I have to tell you, this is a slightly off topic, but speaking of just picking a common surname to use as an example, because you want to have some results and see how it works. Right. So I had done a search for, and I was giving this presentation, this has been several years ago, at the Indiana Historical Society. And I just did a search. It wasn't WorldCat, it was on Nukmuk, which was kind of a precursor.
The National Union Catalog of Manuscript
Collections. Yeah, Nukmuk, kind of a precursor of Archive Grid.
Right.
And I had just done Jones family. So one of the hits actually was from the collection there at the Indiana Historical Society. Oh, perfect. So I used that in my example. And one of the librarians who was there in my session, she raised her hand. She goes, "You realize that that's the Jones family, right?" And it didn't click with me. No, that was like Jim Jones, his quote family.
Oh
yeah.
Jim Jones, the cult.
Jim Jones, the cult. Yeah, apparently he had ties to Indiana. And so they had some collection of, I don't know, scrapbooks or something about, what had happened down there. And it was like, okay, yeah. So.
Well, you never know. I mean, here I am. I'm at FGS, right? And I'm doing this talk on Google image image searching outside of Google, like where else you can find family photos. And of course, I'm mentioning the big three, Ancestry.com and, blah, blah, blah. And so we do an image search on Family Search, and I pull up an image, and there's the whole biography of the woman. And I'm like, yeah, it's not her. It can't be her.
Oh, no.
It was a misidentified image, which I then turned into an example of how you can't always trust what somebody else has uploaded. But there it was. I mean,
yeah.
She was the woman in the picture would have been born around the time the other woman had died. So it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But, we do use funny examples.
Yeah. And we just make them work.
Yeah. I mean, things happen when you speak, right?
They do.
Our audiences have no idea what can happen when you speak. Back when we used slide projectors, I had the slide projector catch on fire.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of protecting your data.
Exactly. I watched the slide melt on the screen. And I was like, what is that? And then there was smoke. And I was like, pull the plug. The lecture was over.
The lecture was over at that point. Well, you could have done shadow puppets or something.
I had examples with me, so I did them that way. But wow, that slide was gone for sure. Well,
sometimes
we are at the bottom of the half hour. If anybody has any questions for us, thank you all for joining us. And we'll be back. Ooh, did we set a date for next month?
We did not set a date for next month.
You know what? I'm actually away on the first Thursday in October. So could we do it on the 11th?
We probably could do it on the 11th, maybe.
We'll make an announcement. Watch.
We'll do that.
Watch for the announcement. But we will, yes. I have a family wedding in the Big Easy.
Ooh, fun.
New Orleans.
Fun.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that should be fun. Good food. I love New Orleans.
Yeah, a lot of butter.
Yeah.
Which I can't
butter and
eat.
Seafood.
We'll see. I'll bring snacks. Lots and lots of snacks.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Amy, great to see you again.
Good seeing you.
And maybe you'll have a book for next month and I won't.
I don't see you not having a book.
I don't know. I'm reading about 4 different ones right now. So
I will catch up. I
need to pile them up and just start finishing them.
Yep. There you go.
Oh, Deborah's going to say she's going to have to miss us next month, but she'll catch up later. And that's good because you can watch this. If you miss it live, it is on our Facebook pages and you can watch it and comment on it. And we do watch the comments. So tell your friends and we hope you enjoy it because we really enjoy doing this.
Yes.
Thank you again for joining us for Heritage and History. See you.
Bye.